Hi, I'm Maria Bernier, the State Data Coordinator for the Connecticut State Library. One of my jobs is to compile the deliberate volume counts that you all send me each quarter. And this video is an explanation of how to count the deliberately, accurately, and consistently, two of my favorite words. The goal of our volume counting project is to get more accurate toward an estimate of the number of items, such as the books, audiobooks, and DVDs that are moved around the state by the deliverIT drivers. So you should be counting only the items or bins that you receive and send through deliverIT, not any items that you might send through a consortium delivery if you participate in one of those. So we'll start with how to count incoming volume. If you work in a busy library that usually gets 3 full bins delivered every day, you might find it easier to count by the bin, either whole bins or partial bins. For example, if one of the bins isn't completely full, you can say that you received 2.5 bins or 2.75 bins, depending on whether it's half full or 3/4 full. Now, the photo on the left shows one full bin, and you'll count this as one bin on your sheet. The photo on the right shows a half full bin. Now, maybe you work in a library where you have enough time and staff to count each of the incoming items. So you would unpack each bin and count the specific number of items within it, and then add up all of the items for each bin. So for example, you might unpack 3 full bins and count the individual items and get a total of 69 items. Or maybe you receive only one bin with a few items in it. You would unpack the bin and count those individual items and, for example, get a total of 8 items for that partial bin. So looking at the half full bin that we saw in the previous slide, you could unpack it and count this as 10 individual items instead of a half bin. Now, if you report both the half full bin and the individual items, you are double counting, which is not what we want. So instead, you should report either half a bin or the individual item count, not both. Now, to report these, you have 2 different spreadsheet options for keeping track of the counts. The detailed spreadsheet that we see here helps you keep track on a daily basis. And when you open the spreadsheet, it usually opens up on the summary page where you should type your library's name and the contact person for the counts and that person's email address in those green boxes. And then you see down here at the bottom, there are 3 additional sheets, 1 per month. Start with the first month and fill in your counts each day. Here's what that looks like. This library receives a delivery 5 times a week. So they've entered counts for each weekday. And they usually count full or partial bins, but sometimes when there's just a few items in one bin, they'll count those items individually. And you see them in the incoming individual loose items column. Now, if we look to the bottom of the spreadsheet, see how it automatically adds up the number of bins and individual items in this month. You can see they received 50.5 bins plus 35 individual items in that month. Now, if we look back at the summary sheet that we saw just a minute ago, you can see how the spreadsheet automatically fills in those monthly totals here, right? So there's the 50.5 incoming bins, 35 loose items, and you'll see that we've estimated that there are 24 items in a full bin on average, meaning some bins might have a little more or a little less. If you are interested in the reasoning behind that number, you can find it in the FAQs on the deliverIT LibGuide, which I'll provide a link for later. So this detailed spreadsheet automatically calculates the total number of incoming items your library receives each month based on your daily entries. Now, the other option for keeping track of your counts is just a summary sheet, like this one we see here. Looks very similar to the detailed sheet, but it only has one sheet within the spreadsheet. So at the end of the month, you would type in the number of bins you received and the number of individual items in the green boxes. You'll just type right in here. And again, the spreadsheet will automatically calculate the total for the month. So next, we'll count outgoing volume. At the Middletown Library Service Center, we keep a handwritten tally sheet near our outgoing bins because we keep adding items throughout the day. Every time we add an item to those outgoing bins, we add a hash mark to the tally sheet. And if we put several items in the bin at once, we make a corresponding number of hash marks. Now, if you work at a busy library with a lot of volume, maybe you want to keep track of these hash marks every day so that you can enter each day's count into the detailed spreadsheet. And if you work at a library that sends out a lot of interlibrary loans or hold requests, maybe you already packed a bin full of them, and then you could count a full outgoing bin, as there is on the left, instead of individual items, which you're counting on the right on this particular example sheet. And then at the end of the day or end of the month, you would transfer the counts, those little hash marks from your sheet, onto either your detailed or your summary spreadsheet. So if you use the detailed spreadsheet, here's what that detailed count might look like for your outgoing items. Over on the right, you can see we've got outgoing bins and outgoing individual loose items. And if you use the summary sheet instead, here's what it might look like for a month at a low volume library, where you filled in the number of outgoing loose items in the green boxes, and it calculates. So some reminders for the end of the video here. Remember to count each item only once, either as an individual loose item or as part of a bin. Do not please double count your items. Count them only once. And also count items that are sent through deliverIT, not through any supplemental service that's offered by your consortium. Next, you can read the FAQs on the deliverIT LibGuide, which explain all of this in a lot more detail and the methodology and the philosophy behind what we're doing. And lastly, you can find all of the spreadsheets and the other tally sheets on our LibGuide, which is shown here. That's libguides.ctstatelibrary.org/dld/deliveritct/volume/counting. And you can find all of the information there. And I'll end with my contact information here, Maria Bernier. You can reach me by telephone at 860-704-2204 or by email to maria.bernier@ct.gov. Thank you for watching.